Welcome to another episode of the Spiritual Investor Podcast. I don't know why I say that every time. I think I say that every time because I say that every time. And I do that because that's what we do. We just recreate versions of ourselves and then we go, okay, well, I want to be different, but I'm going to use language and I'm going to do the same thing over and over again. And I think that right now there is a rhetoric going on that could be equivalent to this repeat process that I just blatantly gave you an example of. And that is the rhetoric that is going on in our head about the world is fucked. So many people are like, what am I going to do? I don't have the money that I want. Uh, look at what's going on, like politically, geographically, all the things. And then you see like the data and the market, which is doing great, and the economy is doing well. And there just seems like this kind of scratch your head moment where why is it that people seem more in scarcity than ever? And then also there's this uncertainty, right? Which I don't know if that even should be a word because we're always uncertain about something. So you can't measure uncertainty. So why do we even say it? It's one of those I feel like wasted breath things, but we'll just go with it for this conversation. And then you get questions like, in the group this morning, in the spiritual investor group, someone said, I've been doing all of this work. I've been doing all these practices and I have been, in feeling like I'm in flow with money and happier and all this stuff. And now then I just got this giant expense. And so the way that she was framing it is, that, here's the test. The universe is testing her. I myself, I don't believe that there is a time where we're getting a test and we're not getting a test. To me, that doesn't make sense. I mean, energy is just energy. Also, we are creating everything in our world. So if anybody's creating a test, you are. So the way that I see this is, and this kind of ties in with the world is fucked. The way I see it is that the polarity is strong. But why do we, when we say the polarity is strong, what's standing in the background of that comment is, oh no, it's more difficult. Oh no, it's going to be some sacrifice or cost me time or money or whatever. Like, it's the disconnecting of these words that we use and this way of being that allows us to access the next thing. And if you've been listening to this podcast for any length of time at all, you've heard me talking about breaking the structure, which is a concept that I teach on a very deep level inside of the program. And it is effectively you breaking the structure is occurring around you all the time. And you are either just reacting to it, or you are to a certain degree creating a breaking of the structure so that you can meet the new version of you on the other side. Because the more you are waking up every day meeting the new version, which basically you can't meet the new version without being the self-expression of the version. That's how this happens, because you become the version, you're the self-expression of it, and then the world reflects it back to you and you keep going. So the polarity that's going on, the strength of it is directly related to your proximity to actually poof, if we will, becoming that new version. And there really is no such thing in a new version and an old version. It's just you are letting go of the things that are blocking your light. But it's kind of fun to think of it as a new and an old, because we're born into a very achievement like society where we need to always be doing something and moving forward. So it definitely plays in with that. Something that I talked about on a previous episode was calibration, and calibration is a way to replace that achievement kind of moving forward, but still get yourself to the same place, if not further, actually. Further would be a result of, instead of it being a linear end goal that you can picture in your mind, which if you can picture it in your mind, it's already a repeat. Um, it is what you're doing is as you're calibrating, you are increasing your probability of success. And so let's talk about that here for a moment. So when I say you could picture it in your mind, it's a repeat. Well, if it looks exactly the same way, or if you're holding on to the result itself, then like you're not allowing any discovery in, then it's going to be a repeat. If you have a vision of something that you are dropping down into a feeling, and that feeling is creating a scenario whereby it is a win-win situation, um, then that is something that you can calibrate yourself to. You can't move towards anything that's lack, so you can't actually move away from something until you let it go. You can't let something go until you actually also know it's in the room. So this whole spiritual thing about, love yourself, all parts of yourself. Yes, that's great. Love those parts of yourself that you don't really like, but do that in a way that you are acknowledging but not proliferating those. So the way that you do that is you play in the space over here in the new way of being, that you are increasing your probability to success. So you might not know that you are going to get $1 million coming up. The more you root it in time, then the more you are lowering your probability, because when you introduce time, then you've introduced limiting factors. For example, you won't be able to maybe get that $1 million through doing 15 private events because time doesn't allow you to properly plan those. You may not be able to get to that by publishing a book because maybe that takes a year or longer in your time frame. So then what's happening is then you're forcing yourself to fictitiously sort of alternate your plan, and you're just introducing a lot of variables that have no meaning. And what you always want to do is you always want to recognize that the universal plan is always the simplest plan. I, had this, it wasn't a mantra, it was a phrase that came to me when I was in my early 30s. And it was, you're going to need options in your 40s. And it was so simple, but it was also so vague that I was able to apply it in many different situations. So the simplicity was also the expansion point of it at the same time. And it was so deep within me that I really didn't, like, I never questioned it. I never questioned that it would also apply in every single scenario that I was in. And it did, and I ended up retiring from the financial trading floor at 39, and that statement guided me to, well, if I'm going to need options in my 40s, then what does that mean? That means that I probably need to be financially independent. Well, that probably means that I need to be not stuck going to an office 12 hours a day. And not able to leave, or I couldn't even make a personal phone call because I was on a trading floor with like no cubicles. It was just like big desks, right? So I carried this into the self-expression of who I was. I also knew that I was going to need to acquire different skills than I had within me at the time. And so I remember thinking, okay, well, what is it that I see in these people around me on the trading floor that is giving them a lot of success that I actually don't see in myself? And what came to me was the ability to finish something, like to take something to completion. So no wrong or right, but I had been raised by, parents who they would just start a project and then they would just forget it, or, and they got divorced when I was really young. Like everything seemed to end at some awkward place. And there was never this, okay, I did this, it's done, right? Now, I did finish college and, I had completed things, of course, but not at this level as the adult version of me. Like I didn't know how to complete things as an adult. And I saw that disconnect there. So what I chose to do is to start doing triathlons. And I thought, okay, that will put me in it. I will enjoy the journey so much of all the practice and the training and everything. And I'll meet a bunch of people who are completing things. So that's exactly what I did. And that taught me a very valuable life skill. And then I ended up bringing that into my world, into my work. And it was one of the things that got me where I am. And so this hopefully is giving you something to grab onto that is a guidepost, because you really don't actually need answers. You need a guidepost that is coming from within you, and you're looking for that as a function of what you want. But what you want is appearing like something's missing, but there actually is no such thing as you really wanting something unless you're choosing that you want it. So, another example here. Um, Whenever I want something and I find myself in a state of wanting, it feels like it's like an emotional, like almost like a football's been kicked into my stomach, right? I'm like, oh, there's this feeling. So then I go, okay, well, that is a feeling of wanting. So then I disconnect it from whatever circumstance outside caused that wanting, because the wanting can't be put into me. The wanting is from me. I'm feeling like it's because of an outside circumstance, but that's only because I chose to let it be. So what I do is I stop the disentanglements and I go back to there's only me. I'm creating my world. It's just me. Okay, now here I am with this feeling of wanting. Do I want to keep this feeling of wanting? If I do, then I will keep the stories that I've told myself, the illusions that give me this feeling of wanting. Do I want to do that? Like I always have a choice. No, I don't really want that. At that point, when I get to that stage in the journey of the observer actually talking back to myself, I'm already feeling better. And that feeling better is a momentum that I've created within myself that I have the ability to notice. So then when I notice it and I see it, I have the ability to use it. So I go, okay, this is working. This is working. How am I going to keep going on with this? Then I can take myself to a place where there is no wanting, because there are aspects of that that I actually do have. And I might have all of it if I'm willing to notice that there is no such thing as time. So when you take the element of time away and then you want $1,000,000 and all of a sudden there's no time, then there's no difference in you wanting the $1,000,000 and you having the $1,000,000, because there's no time. And even if you do that right now, you can feel the lessening. There's no time. So all of a sudden the $1,000,000 just came. The $1,000,000 is here in the now. And so if you know that the $1,000,000 is here in the now and there's nothing holding you from it, you get to tap into the feeling of that. And then what will you do from that feeling? And so you hear this in spirituality a lot, where it's just like people are like, create the feeling. Well, it's hard to create a feeling if you're trying to do it from your mind. The way you create a feeling is you create the space. And then you notice and you look back on the feeling. Everything that comes into your world as an invite, you're always looking back on. And one of the reasons is because that's the moment you can see it, because you see from the eyes of curiosity and awe and being in the present moment. That's when you see things. And it's that wonderful moment where you go, wow, I don't feel that anymore. Wait, I'm not entangled anymore with that. Wait, that thing that person used to say, it doesn't bother me anymore. Then what happens is it's like lightness, 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 right? Then you get into another state. It could be the next day. It could be the next minute. And all of a sudden, the stories have come back in. The polarity is there. But you are not the same version of you in that moment when that polarity is there. However, You can be the same version if you want to. If you want to solve it from the version of, this is what happened when I was 3, you can. And it's likely that that is going to be the default. If not 100% true, that's going to be the default that does come in. When you notice that you are back in a state of lack, that is evidence that the default identity is taking over. And so, really, when you distill it down to the simpleness of this, then you're able to elevate beyond these individual circumstances that are going around you and actually see, well, the severity of the polarity is showing me how close I am to actually becoming the new version. Because if I wasn't feeling it on this level, if I wasn't feeling it so extreme, then I wouldn't also at the same time have something bigger than I had before to step into. And it is that you stepping into the bigger version of how do you approach this? How are you in the moment? That then gives you the ability to have that breaking of the structure, which is like a line in the sand, and then reflect back on it. So when you are feeling, going back to the example of the student who said, I'm in this world, I'm in the energy, I'm loving it, and all of a sudden big expenses come in, that is actually like, holy shit, universe just told me game's on. That is not a universe is testing me. I grew up in a household with scarcity. Like I said, nothing wrong, it's a choice. But the stronger the feeling is, the more it's in your face to actually choose it. Now, you might not be able to choose it fully. And that's another thing where I think gets people astray here. That's why I use calibration. And there is an increasing probability that you are setting yourself up for success. So you're not doing the thing because that's like you're forcing yourself to be a certain way. You're like, I am this. Can't do that. You have to be the self-expression of anything in order to be it. So you have to actually let it move through you first. How you do that is you increase the probability by creating the space for it and then stepping into the space. Now, the way that you do that is you decrease the amount of random variable inputs that are in there. So when I'm feeling that wanting, I'm decreasing the amount of random variable inputs when I say, there's just me. Yeah, that circumstance over there and there and there. Yeah, that I can logically see how that caused that. Oh, that makes sense. But okay, that's like chewed gum. So that's not doing me any good. Those go away. I've reduced the amount of variable inputs. Therefore, those energy leaks, if you will, don't have anything to grab onto. Those identities don't have anything to grab onto. So automatically I feel better, right? Do you see how it's space that is allowing something new that you're creating to take form? That is the difference in the new world paradigm and the old world paradigm. The old world paradigm is commanding, it's controlling, it's I'm getting this. The new world paradigm is I see what is in my world right now. I am going to get myself in resonance with that as a function of seeing it, looking back into it, being the observer, looking at it with the level of depersonalization so that I can then actually bring my power in, because when I see it, I can actually put my energy into it and I can bring it in. It's the same thing, right? So when I see that, then I have access to it. Then what I can do is I can say, okay, well, how does the new version of me create the space so that I am inviting the thing in and that the wanting can no longer be there when that thing is there? Well, I do that by increasing my probability and saying there's a portion of it here now. So if we think about this, and this all ties in with money neutrality, because this is sort of the guts of money neutrality and the void and the greatest opening to money, because it is your ability to utilize nothingness. Nothingness actually contains everything. Nothingness says what will happen, because nothingness contains infinite possibility. So nothingness says what will happen. Nothingness also is space. And so nothingness allows that new thing to step in. When you are in your mind with your rhetoric and your stories and da 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 da, and this big expense came in, there's no space. And there's your space is allocated in relation to where you place your attention. So I'm going to let all of that kind of weave through. We're going to be having a deeper conversation on this in the SI Club. You can also send me a DM on Instagram. I am hoping that this will give you some type of access point into your world and whatever you have going on right now, because whatever you have going on is the ability for you to increase your probability of success. Right? I said it that way specifically, instead of saying what you have going on right now is for you, what you have going on is an opportunity. Like, I think that's harder to grasp. But can you bring it down to whatever you have going on is simply you're able to sort of pluck one leaf off the tree. You pluck one leaf off of the tree and you're actually getting somewhere. Allow yourself to be with that. All right. So much love to you. I'll see you on the next episode.